Thank you for joining us to this show, A New Life. We're here in the studio with Rav Lightman. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, Nitsa. We're happy to tell you that we're going to open a new topic today in our coming shows. And the topic that we've chosen for today is health. I don't think there's something that interests people all over the world, of all ages, of all different statuses, whoever it is. There's nothing that interests more than health. We can have a lot of things in our lives, but if our health isn't good, this is the main thing that bothers us. And when we began to prepare for this series of talks, we saw that there are so many aspects to this world of health, so many topics, so many things with the help of which we would like to open up each and every subject. And with your help, Rav Lightman, this is why we're here with you in the studio, we'd like to get new outlooks on this topic from you have such a special view on life and the connection between things, between people. So our purpose in this talk is to talk about health and to touch upon all the things that bother people so much, each and every one of us, but not just in the sense that we can all talk about in our daily life, but to help us rise above a little more, to open our consciousness a little bit more about this topic. So this is what we're going to do in the next series of talks, and I hope that we succeed because this is very, very interesting for people. And I'd be happy if Nitsa could lead us into this first talk. So yeah, if we would ask a person, any person, what are the most important things for you in life? Usually he'd say, give me my health and all the rest I'll manage with. And some people in the world raise a toast and say health, love, and money. And you can argue over the order, but usually these are the three things people think are important. So actually we talked about money and love, but health is the wide, important subject that we would like to discover with your help. So the first topic that we wanted to open with, because it's such a wide topic, is a kind of overview of the topic of health and illness throughout history, because from our simple outlook, we see that there's a difference between the types of illnesses that existed before in the past. There were all kinds of plagues that were contagious, illnesses like the pox, and all kinds of infectious illnesses. And today, there's more cancer, heart disease, diabetes. These are the illnesses today. There's a change. So we'd like to understand, to get a kind of overview over these differences. Why are they happening? How are they happening? And in general, we'd like to enter this topic of health and illness through your perspective. Well, my perspective is as usual, just like in everything. That the human being is integral, is connected to nature. We see that our bodies are supposedly not connected to the others, but that's not true. We all belong to one system where all the inanimate, vegetative, and animal life are connected, interconnected. And if we understood more how dependent we are on each other, then we would join all our bodies together into one body. This is how interdependent we are. And our ability to infect each other with viruses or illnesses, this is something minor. But truly, there's a very close connection between us which determines the general health. We influence each other. And this influence on a person's health is not only on the physical level. We think that there is air pollution, all kinds of additives that we have to add to the vegetables that we grow, let's say, and fruits and so on. And also to meat, lots of hormones and all kinds of chemical additions and genetic ones. But the problem is that we see from nature, also from our research and from what the wisdom of Kabbalah explains to us, that each higher degree rules or controls the lower ones. And then what happens is that our thoughts, our desires, and actually our ego is what destroys us. And it is what actually is killing us. When it spreads from above downwards and influences our health and the ecology, all our the way we live our life, and the animal life, and the vegetative life, even the still life. And therefore, if we're talking about the correction, it won't help us to constantly develop new medicines, because we will see new illnesses and even more developed ones. Because if we do not correct ourselves now, then of course our desires, they become more and more egoistic, and we are less close to one another and less considerate of one another in an open and direct way. And of course, this influences the entire general system, which is all completely integral. It also influences the level of our health. And this physical level of health is the result from all of that we have above it, from the psychological levels. We call it the nervous system, but it's a lot higher than that. And also from the lower systems, from the animal life and vegetative and inanimate world, which we also destroy by entering it with our actions, and also by us destroying the whole system with our thoughts and desires. So even though today we've reached a state in which almost a third, if not more, of the national treasure of every country in the world, we give 30%, even more of that, to the health system. Just try and think about that. If I gain or earn, let's say, 1,000 something, then let's say 30 or 40, 300 or 400 of that 1,000 I cut away to somehow allow myself to be healthy. It doesn't make us healthy, but somehow to take care of the worst things, because of course we die and get sick. It's not that we pay and then feel better. If it was that way, then that'd be okay. But 30 or 40% of what I earn, I pay in order to feel good. But no, even afterwards, I don't feel good. Even afterwards, I get sick and suffer. So then I'm not correcting my health through that. So we shouldn't think that by that we already are able to exit this problem. Of course not. Therefore, health it needs treatment. This system needs a different treatment. It won't help us to even invest 100% of what we make. We won't cover it by that, because the malfunction that we're creating in ourselves and in the general nature is an integral malfunction. It's something that returns all the time in all kinds of levels and things, because our body belongs to the whole general system. And so we poison it through our thoughts and desires from the higher levels, and it comes down and influences all the lower levels. We influence our cells in a genetic way. We influence our nerves in the nervous and lymph and blood systems. We simply destroy all of these systems, and mostly it's not each and every system. That's even fine. But what we do is that we destroy the connection between them because we don't treat the world in an integral way. We also do not treat our body integrally. Also, our health system, it's a holopathic system. We treat symptoms, the results. We do not treat the actual causes of illnesses. And therefore, this is how we're built. And aside from that, the system itself, if we say a few words about it, then it's an egoistic system, the health system. The doctors are interested in there being more more people who are ill, more customers, and those who make the medicines want to have more customers to buy the medicines. And this big system of creating the different tools and checkups and tests and machinery, it's so big. So many people benefit from it. This system has begun to create its own lacks or needs, and to create more illnesses and more tests that are necessary, and selling us this idea that it will make us healthy instead of doing preventive medicine, which nobody is interested in. Because we are egoistic, we've also built this system in such a way that it's good for those who run the system, and it's good for them to see that people are ill, because he makes a living from that. And God forbid, I don't want to talk like this about each and every one, but the system itself, because it's egoistic, this is the way it operates. And there's nothing to do here except to change ourselves and then change the system itself. It will change out of people changing. Until then, we will invest more and more and more money in health, and nobody will be healthy from that. We will only give each and everyone maybe a few more operations, a few more kilos of medicines, and somehow carry ourselves through our lives until more problems arise and more illnesses. And except for blood pressure and diabetes and heart problems and cancer, which is common to our world, especially these four blows, we will discover more and more that are yet before us. And this all is a result of us disrupting the harmony in all parts of nature, and also causing our body to leave it to become imbalanced. Because actually, the lack of health is only to the extent of the lack of harmony between all the body's systems, and this cannot be balanced until we treat all of nature in its general form, as in the integral, balanced way. Until then, this will be the source of illness, and the cure will be only the correction of man's approach to the general nature. So this is actually just to say a little bit about everything. Okay, so actually there are all kinds of approaches to defining health, and one of these approaches that I found on the internet is the definition of the World Health Organization, which is that health is a state of well-being that is emotional, physical, and social, and not just a lack of illness. And in the last years, they've added to this definition the ability to run fruitful life socially and economically. How would you define health? What is health from your angle? Health is the extent of connection of man to the general system of nature. The extent of connection between a person to the general integral system of nature. Can you explain that a little more? It's when a person feels that he exists in one system with everything that's around him, inanimate, vegetative, animal, and human beings, who are all in one system that is global, integral, in harmony, which is all one body, which is mutually balanced. And this state is called health. This is health. Balance, general whole balance. And this health that you're now describing, wasn't it always this way? Because we've always been a part of nature, so what's the difference? But we, in our ego, are disrupting this balance. And in the past we didn't? Yes, but we weren't that egoistic. We were ill, we would end our lives in less years. Right, but it wasn't that prominent. Besides that, we live short lives, maybe 30 years, maybe even 20 years. In the times of Tutankhamun of Egypt, people would live 25 years, even hardly so, maybe 20 years. And then it went up to 30, and in the medieval times, they'd reach maybe their 40s, people would reach. I can give an example, or maybe Pushkin, who writes that an old man who's maybe 40 years old entered. So this was a true elder man, a 40-year-old person. Although there were people who had means who lived even 60 or 70 years, 200 or 300 years ago. But the normal people, the regular people, they would live up to 40. And now we are continuing. We have more comfortable lives. We know how to overcome all kinds of problems. We give vaccinations to children, which was a very great blow for the previous generations. And this is how we carry on. But the question is, how much does it really cost us? And what happens in these years that we add to ourselves? And why do we even add that? Why do we even think that living more is good? What's so good about it? Except that for us being afraid that of our loss of life, of death. But all in all, it's a very unclear calculation because we don't have anything to compare it with. And so this whole matter of how much we need health in comparison to the length of our life is a question. Do we agree to live another 100 years but to be ill? And what will that give us? Or maybe we could disconnect a person from his fear of death and then there's no problem. Okay, so the question is very simple. How much does it cost us in suffering to be alive and ill? Again, this is an interesting question. How much does it cost us? How much suffering and effort does it cost us and money to be alive and ill? What do you mean by alive and ill? Meaning that I'm alive but ill. Is it worth it? Today people live 80 or 90 years. I went to all kinds of places in the world where people come close to 100 years. Well, in Switzerland and all kinds of places. Most people live after they're up to over 90. And what is the benefit of that? What is the benefit of life? Because after 70, he's already half alive, half dead, and after 80, he becomes senile, and after 90, you need a few more people to take care of him. It's like a vegetable, and more. Is it worthwhile to do that? What is our medicine doing? It will continue our life until 150. For what? Only so that we will keep this spirit of life inside this protein? We need to think. How rational is it? What sense does it make for us to just live for the sake of living? And also now we're coming closer to a state in which our pensions will not be enough, where the youth won't be able to feed the elderly, where they'll need to treat elderly people. So many people will need to do that. We won't have enough young people that will want to do that, and they won't be able to, because the amount of people that will need treatment will be more than those who are at an age that they are able to give this treatment. Soon, those who are over their 60s and onwards, or 70, they will be in such an amount just like or even more than those who are young. And then what will we do? So then the subject of health is very complicated and deep, and it belongs to the question of what is the purpose of life? What is life? What does it mean to be alive? Is it for the body to be alive, or is his internal self to be alive, or does he need to manufacture something special, or contribute to society? And what if he can't? What is his benefit to to others, or and to himself? There are very deep and essential questions, and also dangerous questions. And what are we going to do with these people? How do we approach them? This is a great problem that the world is standing before, but nobody's thinking about it because we don't have answers for it, people say. There are no answers. We just need to continue as much as possible. What will happen next? Nobody knows and nobody asks. Because people are accustomed to dealing with whatever they are able to and what they're not. They just they take it out of the horizon. It's just as if these questions are not there. And therefore, this question of health it depends how we approach it. If we round the corners and we don't let ourselves exit the normal things, then what can we do, all in all? We can scrutinize the lack of balance we have with this general system, because this lack of balance is causing this general illness of all of humanity, of all of nature, and that influences us. And by what do we then cause balance? Our own balance, because except for human beings, everybody is instinctively in balance with nature. Who is everyone? Well, the still vegetative and animal life. They operate according to the orders of nature instinctively, and they naturally exist this way. They have no evil inclination and desire to use others. They feed on the environment, but that is not the evil inclination. They do not want to harm or use anybody. No. One eats the other because this is the laws of nature. These are the laws, and this is the way it's organized, and they do what they can. However, man wants to destroy everything only to have the smallest moment of pleasure. So it's the ego that runs man's life, and animals do not have the ego. Ego is called that I want to use others in a way that harms others, and I enjoy that. I want to use others because I want to enjoy it for my own sake. I want to enjoy being in control of him. I enjoy his suffering. If one animal eats the other animal and kills it, it doesn't want to harm it. It simply wants to please itself. It needs to exist. And the law of nature pushes it to do so, and it completely operates it. Let's say a lion that preys on a gazelle, then it's the law of nature that makes him do that, and it also brings him this gazelle that it happens not to have the force to escape from it, and then it kills it and eats it. And we also see that from our research that by that they actually help each other, because if you take these lions and keep them from cleaning the territory from those types of animals that they prey on, then they will multiply, and all kinds of illnesses will multiply in that area. Let's say with the deer or something, it's as if they clean the animal world from everything that is not so worthy of life or fit for life. So imagine if we had such relations between human beings, but instinctively, not for us to do it ourselves. Then people, after, say, the age of 60 or 70, they wouldn't live. They would be eaten. If we were operated just like all the other levels of nature, then we would eat each other, let's say. And then each weakling that is not fit for life would not exist. Our lives would be much healthier than perhaps and good if we look at it in an evolutionary biological way. This says something that happens in the animal world, but this does not exist in the human world. So what kind of approach do we need to give to health, to life and death, to a person? What does he need to do in order for him to be healthy and for his environment to be healthy? And even according to that definition of the World Health Organization, that health also belongs to the relations in human society between a man and his world and so on. So, at least according to this definition, we need to have some special study here to teach man how to keep his health, meaning how to connect to other people, because they themselves are talking about the integral world, actually. They're saying the correct relation between man and his environment. Where does that happen? Why aren't we teaching it to, at least to all the students, to our children, or to everyone? Because if they determine that that is the level of our health, so let us, through the health system, compel and make each and every person study this. If I want to be a healthy person, I need to uphold this definition. So give me a book to learn from how to be healthy. Is there such a thing? A book that teaches you how to be healthy? Well, if they are the ones who determine the definitions and they are running the World Health situation, so they should give me a book according to which I will be healthy. I'm willing to keep all this entire definition. Just teach me how to reach it, right? Because they actually only talk about the result, what it needs to look like, but nobody teaches us how to be healthier. I think if there was such a book, then what is this definition worth? What is their work worth if they do not bring a person to this? Maybe they should take care not of this and not of all kinds of medicine that are unnecessary, and then we would reach it and we won't need any of that. Maybe the entire health system needs to work to bring us to this definition. Let's take all the billions that we invest. Because all in all, we invest something like this. 1/3 to the health system, 1/3 to the security system, and the other third to everything else. If we invest what we need, that we use for the health system to preventive treatment, to build a good environment, then surely we won't need 30 or 40% of our income for that. And also not for the security system. Maybe if man changes, and then our entire life will look completely different. So it's possible that through the health system, we will reach the correction of the world. But it's possible that we lack some understanding, because if we'd known that, we'd probably have done it by now. And that's exactly the thing. No, I don't think it's the understanding that we lack, but the understanding that we are egoistic and that our health system is in egoistic hands, and they are not interested for people to be healthy. They're interested for people to be ill. I'm afraid to say, I am sad to say it, but it's so. Okay, we're going to talk lengthily about the health system, but not in our first discussion. If we turn to them and help them become interested in preventive medicine, and by them supposedly, and by telling them that people won't be ill, then we will discover that they're not interested in it. That's all I wanted to say. We'll come back to that later in a talk that will discuss this system and how it needs to be changed. But now I'd like to return to our subject for today, which is just an initial discussion of this huge topic of health, which has so many aspects, like you told us about. So today our topic is health and illness. How do you define illness? Lack of balance in the systems of the body of a person that is caused due to the imbalance of man with his environment, which is caused by imbalance of the environmental system to the greater system. The general force of nature, which runs our entire world in harmony and in a global fashion. Imbalance of our system, where each and every one causes in the system of connections between us, and then the system of connection between us causes imbalance and collision with this general system of nature, which is completely in harmony. So even with your hand movements, you made these movements like there's three circles, right? There's man, my small system, my physical system. There are all kinds of systems in the body, yes. Right, imbalance, internal imbalance in the body, which is the health, psychology, our nerves, all kinds of physical systems, mental problems, physical problems all together. All of these systems, through my ego, which is the highest of my internal systems, the system of my desire, of my passion, the system of desires. This is the highest system of my systems. This system controls my body, and it pushes this entire body to be in an imbalance with the environment. I want to use, I want to gain over, I want to succeed, I want to eat up everything around me. This environment it's but the sum, a certain sum, say of 7 billion of people who are just like me, such egoists, each of whom want to gain on behalf of the other, and so we find ourselves in all these collisions and conflicts. What kind of balance can you find here? This is the opposite of balance. This is a second sphere, and this second sphere, which is completely this egoistic, horrible ball, all black, in constant conflict and stress, it's completely ill. Why is it ill? Because it is in an imbalance with the third sphere, which is wider and greater, which is completely balanced. Who is this sphere? This is nature. The nature, the force of nature. And then, me, with all of humans in my world, must reach balance between us. And by that, we cause our balance with nature. And then we enter harmony, mutual harmony, in which all this reality, all these three spheres, me and humanity and nature, they all enter unity and adhesion and connection. And this state, it is called ideal health, full health. From our spiritual health to our mental health to the health of our different systems, the nervous system, the lymph and blood, and all the levels. Mochat samod gidim basar va'or. There's the brain, the bones, the muscles, the skin. You began by saying that the highest system in man is his system of desires. So when we're healthy, how will it look? Well, our desires will cause correction and balance. What desires? Our desires towards others, our relationship with others. These are the desires I'm talking about. Our desires in better connection, more correct connection to others, balanced connection with others, where I'm constantly thinking, how can we be in balance? Me to you, and you to me, and us to everyone, for everyone to be on the same level, for all of us to be in mutuality, to care for everyone, and then in that way, each one that cares for the other, then in this way alone can we be in balance. I can't say, I will give to you and you give to me. That is not balance. It will never cause balance. Balance will only be caused by me only thinking of you, and that's it. And then somebody will think of me, where each one thinks of the other. Only through that will we reach balance. Connection to others that is outside of me. And this is something we need to learn from the healthy body, where each and every cell and each and every organ thinks of the general state of the body. How do I serve all of the body? If we, between us, as people who belong to the one body of humanity, if we think so in such a way, then this health, the correct connection between us, will influence each and every one also on his levels, from his spiritual levels. I call it spirituality, this kind of mutual good connection where each one takes care of the others. This will influence all of the systems that exist below that, in my personal desires, which will participate in it, and then in my thoughts, which will participate in this bestowal to others, and also in all of my body, in my brain and bones and tendons and flesh and skin. These are the systems of the body, the lymph, the blood, the nervous systems, and so on. All these systems will also participate in their existence in order to finally be the bestower to others. And this will give each and every system its health. Only in this way. You understand to what degree this correction needs to come down to in our mutual connection. So now I will pose this question that Nita opened with about health and illness. Our purpose is to understand how can we truly reach this health that you're describing. Just like in everything that we learn in life, if we want to understand something that is ahead of us and truly succeed in it, or reaching a breakthrough, then it's worthwhile to understand where everything came from, how it was before, and then we'll be wise enough to analyze what's happening now, and then the wise whose eyes are in his head can see what to do onwards. So the first question we opened this discussion with, and I'd like to raise it again, when we talk about health and illness, we identify that there's been a change in the types of illnesses that people suffer from. In the past, there were more plagues, the dysentery and pox, and today we see that there is cancer and heart disease and so on. Do you have a perspective that could analyze according to this special perception that you offer with different spheres? Can you analyze the development of health and illness throughout the generations so that we will understand better what is happening now and especially what will happen in the future? We have evolved over the generations through the ego that constantly grows in us from generation to generation. And there wasn't really such a connection between human beings that is as close as it is today. People would live at a distance from one another. Each one had his own piece of land and sheep. Well, before that, I don't want to go because it's a bit too far. Let's say that there are four periods in the development of our civilization. The first period is when we would seek food, either from the trees or from the earth, all kinds of roots or fruit that would grow here and there, or they would kill food, especially from hunting and from seeking, just like animals. And they'd live in caves. The second period, where our ego grew, and through that, we began to build for ourselves all kinds of systems of food, of nourishment especially. This is also what animals are occupied with all the time. So we began to look for food. First of all, through our ego, we began to work the land. We had the brains to do so. We received it. And then we learned how to grow household animals to help us with the hunt, and also the animals themselves. We would grow cows, not just to kill them, but also to milk them and so on. And all kinds of other animals that we're growing now in order to grow them and eat them and grow them and eat them. And this is how we do it. This is already the second period of our development. But still, man was not so in need of his connection with other people. And also animals, their health depended on him and on his family. And they'd help each other in such a way. Also, there was a necessity for each and every one. The elderly would stay at home and help, and the young people would go to the field and help with the animals, with the farm life. In accordance to that, there was already a little more need to make life a little more lengthy, to add to the years of life. And then we developed and reached such a state in this development, let's say 300 years ago, where the technological period began, machinery, which did not exist before that. And then before we used horses, and we used the animals. We didn't build artificial systems around us. We had a bow and arrow, the stick. We plowed using a donkey and the bull, the ox. We rode horses. And 300 years ago, we began with the different systems of steam and coal, until we've reached this culmination of this development, where we're completely dependent on one another, all kinds of professions, and not just like we had before, maybe the tailor and the different professions, just the primitive things that people needed then before, the metal worker, the tinsmith. But recently, with all of the different systems that we've built, we've become dependent on all kinds of professions that are artificial, actually. The electrician, the technician, people became disconnected from the earth. They moved into factories. Great bodies, organizations were built. The health system was founded, because if I have people who are working, I care for their health. I need them as the factory owner, let's say. I need them to be healthy. And the state began to understand that it needs to take care of its citizens. First, we didn't have such a thing at first. Up until 300 years ago, the king didn't care if his citizens were ill or not. There were plagues that came and destroyed entire cities. So what? You understand? Nobody cared about it so much. The doctors would only treat the elite, special people, and all the rest was just like nobody cared whether they were alive or dead. And when each and every person began to receive a special profession, each one became a kind of property for towards the environment. And then they began to take care of general health, and medicine evolved in accordance to that because there was a need. More and more people wanted to be healthy and to fulfill themselves in a modern way. And then the state also began to care for that, and then the health system began. Doctors were not the only ones. Doctors stopped treating only special people. They opened clinics and health organizations. Also, there all kinds of machinery developed and utensils and now we are in the fourth period of development of humanity, which is the modern period. These new technologies, an internet connection, this is what we call the round world. We are still in transition. We're not quite aware of where we're heading, but we're already at the entrance to this next stage, and there the health system will need to give a true answer to all of the malfunctions that have been revealed in it from the previous state, because only in the previous state it began to be built and to discover 200 years after it was established, to discover all of its malfunctions. And now we're seeing all of these malfunctions, and we will need in the health system, and we will need to correct them and to change it in accordance to this period that we're now entering. And it must change. It must be completely different. We do not want to be ill and to constantly go to doctors. I don't want to even belong to a health insurance or social health care. I don't want to owe them anything. I have to be healthy and not to know who the doctor is. We've built such a system that it exists for its own sake, that it doesn't care about the citizen being healthy. It doesn't care about the air being clean or the food to be healthy. It simply exists along all of these defects in human society and treats them a little bit so that I'll somehow be able to stay alive and as least maybe damage to others, and to just exist. It does not enter in a direct and complete way and determine, because 30 or 40% of the national budget goes to there. Just like with smoking, it has to say on each and every box that there's a warning. There is no other choice. They accepted this world law not to smoke in all kinds of places. I remember that I would fly in an airplane. I enjoyed it. I'd always receive the ticket to sit in the back of the plane. I would smoke. You don't remember it? You remember. You see, it was so comfortable and good. And now I fly 15 hours, and I'm in sorrow. I can't smoke. You see, and everywhere you go, they don't even need to put up a sign that you're not allowed to smoke. It's clear that in every public area you're not allowed to smoke. Before, we didn't used to have that. I would sit in a cinema and smoke. I would sit in a coffee place and smoke. Today you can't even enter a bar, even to have a beer with friends, and you're not allowed to smoke. What kind of bar is that? You go into a disco where it was always such a great noise and smoke that you can't see a thing. No, it's not like that. You understand? We were able to protect ourselves against something and we accepted it as something that's harmful, that destroys us. And what does it destroy? It destroys the health system itself. That is why they accepted such a law. They understood that the amount of illnesses that are caused by smoking, it will demand from them such a great amount of treatment that they're not able to give. And therefore, from a lack of choice, they stopped themselves and said, here we have to get rid of this disturbance. It is not helping us exist. It is destroying us. This is a problem that is too big for us. In an egoistic, simple way, this is how they decided. This is what they decided. But other problems? Why should we also protect ourselves from them in this way as well? What other problems would you like, for example, to have a public campaign against? Let's begin to check what's happening with our nutrition, with our food. Let's check what foods cause damage. Again, look at what I'm saying here. It's their approach I'm talking about, not my approach to cause balance and through that to heal humanity. I'm just saying, even in such a way, let us go and fight. If that same World Health Organization would talk against junk food and all those falafels where they cook them in that oil, I think it's motor oil, and all those things. So let's check it. First of all, let's check what person feeds on. What does he eat? Most of the reasons that he's ill are from the food, so let's balance it all. Let's clean the supermarkets from all those foods that are poisonous, but in the right way, and not just because there's some business there. Maybe we'll do the same thing that we did with cigarettes. The health system has to function not in a way that it turns out the fire where they see that somebody started a fire and that they say, oh, it's not so bad, maybe later we'll turn it out. We'll take some money, of course, and we'll turn it out. Why shouldn't we do it in advance, ahead of time? It's clear to us, even now, to all of us, that there are factors and causes for health dysfunction in everything that we do. In our workplace, we will make everybody exercise for half an hour. In TV programs, we'll take out all kinds of, we'll prohibit programs that shock the nervous system and put people into fear and stress and all kinds of things. There are lots of such things. What do you mean? We'll stop, decrease by half the amount of traffic in the city. Well, we'll have just public transport inside the city. Everybody who wants to come will park outside the city and use public transport, or they'll walk. Or we have that small motorcycle today with the electronic motor that you can use. This is all great, and just like in Holland there with their bicycles, why not? The health system has to take care of this. There's a lot to do. People will feel big changes very quickly in their life. Why don't we give children at school, to begin with, education and what to eat, what's good for your diet, what's not so good, and to make them in school to learn this? We should teach them and have them get used to live normally, also in the way they relate to each other, and also in with eating healthy food. This is what the health system needs to do. I'm telling you, because they're not thinking about all these things, because they're egoists. This is what I'm talking about. That nobody is talking about it or thinking about it, because this is what they live out of. This is what they make a living out of. This is a huge system. Just understand that this is at least a third of everything that the world makes of its income. This system eats it up with all the organizations, with all of the networks. And that's it. We can expand on this a lot. Okay, well, now we're nearing the end of the show, so Nitsa, if you have one more question. Yes, you described 4 phases, periods of development that we've gone through. Yeah, technological one. And in accordance to that is the concern of man for his health. But at first he thought that he's a part of nature. He lives and dies, and he didn't really have any systems. Well, there were doctors and all kinds of people who manipulated, who did all kinds of manipulations with people and would help in some way. Especially, they would help with special foods. They knew all kinds of herbs, medicinal herbs, and also through psychological force. There were all those shamans and things like that who would give a person the emotional internal power or strengthening, and he believed that he will be healed, and through that he would actually heal, because the psychological system, the nervous system, these are the higher systems that are higher from all the other systems in the body, and so everything comes from your mind. We can actually heal most of the illnesses in man, including these illnesses that are so prominent today of all times. They're in control of human society. And that was in the previous generations. And then we had doctors. Doctors were special people that would study medicine. There were some problems because Christianity prohibited opening up the body to study and so on. But somehow medicine did advance. It existed especially around the noblemen, the nobility, in circles that belonged to religion, in convents and all kinds of things like that. And wise people in general, they would also study medicine and science, mathematics, physics, philosophy, and all these things. And they were also doctors. They were universal, these wise men. But this was only the property of the fortune of few, of the noble people, of the higher statuses. And then about 200 years ago, the health systems were founded because they needed to already treat people, because each one gave great profit to the homeowner, because they were a worker or an engineer. It was a property in accordance to how much he studied and knew what to do, not just a peasant or a slave. And that's how the health system developed. And according to that, illnesses developed. Some of them we overcame, especially different plagues. And we also began giving all kinds of vaccinations. We discover that every illness can be cured by the same illness, one against the other. This is the whole matter of the vaccination. It comes from the same integral law of nature, that this is the same cure. What? This is interesting. Oh, no, we won't have time. This is very interesting. That something that is alike to it can cure the other thing that is also alike to it. So this is how the illnesses decreased a bit. And yes, and so we actually needed to reach a healthy state, but because we entered this such a society, where we started creating this artificial society, artificial food, artificial environment, then such problems arise that come from the lack of good connection and approach between us. And all these illnesses that over the past 50 years have become more dominant come from the problem of human society and not a physical problem for people. So here we need to end, and I think this will be the beginning of our next talk. Thank you very much, Rav Lightman. This was very interesting. Thank you, Nitza. And thank you, our viewers, for being with us. And we hope we'll learn how to be healthy and truly healthy. We all want it. Why don't we do it together? So come to our next talks. We'll continue to talk about it. Until then, all the best and goodbye.